Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another homework video. Hope you guys all had a good winter break. And let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at this. So this is a free response question. Remember last semester you guys were getting a bunch of multiple choice quizzes, but we're back to kind of actually writing code here. So let's take a look at what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to read all that. Hopefully you guys have all done this, so you know what's going on. So we're writing the several methods for the CV record class. And it gives you a couple variables up here and then this constructor. And so we have to write find max, has improved, average, and final average. And then toString is given to us. So the thing that we're going to start with is, let's just start at the top. Let's start with find max. So we've done this a bunch of times now. I know that in my class we've gone over it at least twice. Hopefully you guys are comfortable with finding max and mins, but in case you are not, that's totally cool too. We can go over right now. So this method is only designed to find the maximum value of our array scores here. So we're going to start with, oops, I should say int max equals -1. And we want to start with -1. I guess you could do 0. That would work too, but I went ahead and did -1 because you're not going to get a score of -1. That's impossible. So this is guaranteed to change once you run this method. And then, so we start with this for loop. A equals 0, a is less than scores.length, a plus going through the entire thing. And then if scores of a is greater than max, which like I said, the first time it's guaranteed to be, then we're going to reassign max to the scores of a. So it's just going to go through every time it finds a value in the array bigger than the biggest one it's already found, it's going to reassign it. And so by the time that you go through the entire array, you found the biggest one and you just return it. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to has improved. So this is going to be, it's going to return a Boolean. And so so the definition of this is if every single one of like the values, if each successive value in scores is greater. So every time that this student takes a test or gets points, like they do better on every assignment. And then, so if every single one of them is higher, so like if the student is doing really, really good and then has 170 and then goes back up, this is still going to return false. It has to be consistently getting higher with every single value. And then if it's not true, like I said, it returns false. So we're going to go ahead and take a look here. So we're going through the entire array, and then if scores of a, so the one that we're looking at, is greater than scores of a plus 1, we're going to return false. So let's think about this. So if scores of a, let's say, is 70, and then a plus 1 is 59, well, then we kind of like went down. So that means that we have to return false. And then the nice thing about return statements is that if we find one instance of this, which is all we need to return false, we get to this return statement. And within methods, return statements basically function as breaks in a loop. So as soon as you return something, it just stops doing this, doesn't even run the rest of the code. And then if we get all the way through the loop and we find no instances where this if statement is true, then we go ahead and return true. Moving on then to our next method, we have average. So to find an average mathematically, remember you just add everything together and then divide it by how many things you have. And so in this particular case, it's going to be, we're going to, we want to start from first and then end with last, but we want it to be inclusive. So we want to include first and last. And so we're just going to start with, I just declare this double total is 0. And then, so this is going to be like the length. So this is going to be how much we divide it by. You can see down here, we do total divided by length. So it's last minus first plus 1, because if you do this correctly, you're going to have the last one second. And so it's going to be bigger. So last minus first, which makes sense. But because it's inclusive, we want to add 1 so that it includes both of them. And then we go for loop, so we start with first, and then we have this less than or equal to instead of just less than, because we want to start with first because we want to include it, and then we want less than or equal to because we want to include last. So then we just add it, so we do total equals total plus scores of a, and then go through the entire thing, divide total by length, and then we return total. So nothing too complicated there. And then finally, final average. So the big thing with this one was that you wanted to use your other methods that you'd already written. And so this one, you get a lot of questions like this in the AP exam, and so they tell you stuff, and I think this one does too. Let me double check. Yeah. Oh, never mind. I think it says it up here. Give me one second. Yeah, here we go. So in writing final average, you have to call the appropriate methods defined in the class. So all the methods we've already written, and if necessary, the methods that we're giving access to, like toString, or I guess if you somehow needed the constructor, you can call that too. Oops, come back. And then, so we're gonna assume that they work. So if you do final average perfectly, but let's say your average doesn't work right, that doesn't matter. You'll lose points on the exam for the part on average, but in final average, you'll get full credit. So you want to make sure that you call your methods, even if you don't think that they work properly, because you won't have points taken off for those methods not working properly when you're trying to use them in another method. Hopefully that makes sense. So because of the fact that we already have a couple methods defined, writing this becomes super, super easy. So we want to check to see if it has improved, right? So the thing for this is that if the scores have improved, then we return the average of the indexes greater than or equal to scores.length over 2. So otherwise, in other words, the second half of the array, so that we get the students like better scores. So that could be their average. And then otherwise, we return the value of all of this average of all of the scores. So we just check if has improved, and then so we call the method. This is how you call the method of a class inside of it. You don't need to do CB record dot or anything, but you still need the double parentheses. So if has improved, and then because this is a Boolean, this is saying if it's true. And then if we wanted to check it was false, remember we just put this exclamation mark here, but we want to see if it's true. So if has improved, then we're going to return average, our method from up here. So first is going to be scores.length over 2, so this is that halfway point, all the way up to scores.length minus 1. Remember, because if we did scores.length, that would be out of bounds of the array, because the array indexes start with 0. So this is actually going to be the last value in the array. So, and then we're going to, and then otherwise, so if this returns true, then we return something and we don't read the rest of the code. Otherwise, we're going to return average of 0, the first one, all the way to scores.length minus 1, the last one, because has improved is not true. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys were able to do this, and if not, hopefully this video helped you out. And then one final thing, Dr. Neat wanted me to know, or actually wanted himself to be able to know how many of you guys are actually watching these. So if you are watching this, go ahead and send him an email and tell him, how about your favorite color? So email Dr. Neat, tell him that your favorite color is red or whatever it is, and that'll tell him how many people actually watched this. So thanks for watching. If you have any other questions concerning this homework, feel free to drop a comment, and then, yeah, I'll see you guys next week.